Hey, Yos.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, according to my biochip, my stress levels are quite high and I have a bit of anxiety. But, I'm trying quite hard to feel better.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear it, but what's going on? Why?
Do you know that a couple of months back I moved to Zemgude?
Yeah?
And, well, things there have been quite complicated.
Really?
Yeah.
Um, I heard that they're just implementing this new system for emotional mapping and those kind of things and redesigning the city. I think that would help make life easier.
Yeah, well, on paper at least it should, but I mean, I think it's a technology that had the potential, but things in practice have gone pretty differently. So basically, the state market is using these emotional maps a lot, and they use them to decide who to accept or not as a tenant. Because, well, basically, if a neighborhood has a higher emotional mean, the prices also go up. And so everybody wants to keep the emotional mean high, which makes that, if you're stressed or if you feel bad, it becomes harder and harder to find a place to rent, right? And well, as I had some history with depression, it has become quite difficult for me to find a decent home here.
Oh my God, that sounds really terrifying, but where are you living now?
Yeah, it's quite bad. Well, there are some neighborhoods in which it's still quite, let's say, easy to find a place to live, and it's
Okay.
the neighborhoods with a very low emotional need. And just to give you an idea of how they look like, we call them depression hoods here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So it's full of homeless people. There is many people below the poverty line, and so many people with mental illnesses. And you really have people selling antidepressants in the corners of the streets, and well, living here is not really very simple, not very nice, which becomes sort of a vicious circle because then you feel bad and then it becomes harder to find a nice home in the city center. So you sort of get stuck here in the end.
That's so, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that. And it sounds really tough, but that's so interesting because when I first hear about what they're doing, I would never guess that quantifying emotions would lead to, let's say, emotional gentrification.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to call it, emotional gentrification. Yes. But you know what? I'm really tired to talk about my emotions and check my emotions in the beer chip and describe my emotional curricula to potential tenants. Let's talk about something else. How is life there in Phyllis?
Well, now I'm kind of embarrassed to talk about that, but to be honest, it's quite good here.
Hmm.
And I mean, would be great to have you here some days, just for a change. I think
Oh,
that would be
thanks.
good for you.
Mm.
And I mean, I think the situation is kind of similar because now Phyllis municipality also implemented these new systems, but it's more
Yeah.
about
Hmm.
mobility. And they actually took advantage of this decreasing car usage and
Hmm.
banned the vehicle traffic in most parts of the city.
At all.
Yeah, of course
Hmm.
there are still outside, but also especially in the center of city, there are no vehicles at all anymore. It's a great decision because who needs cars or other means of transportation anymore because we can run everywhere without effort. And it's even better to move your body a bit because the synthesis between our organic and machine parts gets better when you do
Hmm.
that. And actually, now the area we live in extends horizontally and also vertically. So if you want to
Okay.
reach the sky, you just need to run the top of this mile-high observation decks. And it's really great to spend some time there. And actually, they also turn all the roads in the city to parks right now.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah, and actually vegetation starts taking the lower parts of the city because now we're going vertical. The lower parts are kind of abandoned, let's say,
Hmm.
But I think that's good for the nature because even some wild animals started to emerge. I mean, my son and daughter went there to play last week, and I mean, they were super excited to see a reindeer. Just
A reindeer.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I knew this story is that those animals were the cities also up in Finland, for example, many years ago. But it's great to see them here again.
Yeah, that sounds, just breathtaking. I mean, completely different from here. I should, really buy a new pair of legs and come over and run with you across the city. It sounds
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. I guess so. That would be really great. I mean, you're welcome anytime, and it's really so much fun to climb to this observation platforms. And I mean, in fact, I wanted to call you to talk exactly about this new
Hmm.
transformation of cities, because
Okay.
you know this paradigm called smart cities, right?
Hmm. Yeah, sure.
I think the current understanding is already outdated, but administrations all around the world still stick with the old knowledge. I
Hmm.
mean, it is not anymore that the cities are adorned with technologies, but actually we citizens somehow became the technology now, and technology are not embedded in the city, it lives in the city now. So of course, there are several municipalities who work more and more to integrate these transhuman technologies into human fabric. And of course, the Rude and Phyllis are only two examples, and there are more who are doing their best
Hmm.
to use this emotional, cognitive, or physical enhancements of citizens to create better services.
Yeah. Well, better, as I was telling you, sort of depends on the points of view. It's not really better for every single citizens, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's apparent. And I guess this is the problem, right? I think this is the main problem because I don't know how they use this new knowledge and how they use this new opportunities.
Hmm. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. It's a fascinating topic. It's just that I feel that cities are sort of rushing, to become something different, to become the next big thing, to become, well, let's call them transurban, right? And while trying to do that, they just get quite inconsiderate about how they implement these new technologies and what the effects on the life of people will come
Yeah,
from these new
yeah,
technologies, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, exactly. And I mean, as a design researcher, I can't help wondering if it would, if it could be possible to create some sort of maybe guidelines for making
Hmm.
those trans-urban cities that, as you put it right now. So, I mean, that's why I wanted to discuss you because I know you do research on cities and meaning making.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, maybe we can do something about that.
Sure. It would be really very interesting, I think, and it's a topic that is dear to my heart in this moment. And I think we could, no, in fact, I think we should also, involve other researchers. As you
Mhm.
said, there are a bunch of cities now that are going transurban,
Yeah.
and like for example, I have a colleague. He's a researcher, a professor, in fact, on gamification,
Okay.
and he was telling me something quite interesting about Euphemia
Okay.
because he's living there. I mean, he's born and raised there. And
Hmm.
well, apparently they've been working a lot on the cognitive augmentations, and
Okay.
they're
Yeah.
integrating them in the smart city. They're making, their
Hmm.
Internet of Citizens and all this stuff.
Hmm.
And well, he was telling me that from his perspective, at least, the results were kind of catastrophic.
Okay. That's interesting. Actually, I know another colleague, and she's a close friend of mine, and
Hmm.
she lives in Euphemia too. And
Okay.
she's an urban designer. And I know that several municipalities consulted her about how to proceed with, for
Hmm.
example, those new changes. I mean, maybe we can involve them both in this conversation and let's see where it goes.
Yeah. It would definitely be very good to have them both. And in
Hmm.
fact, I was checking. Let me check if they're online right now. But no, Yuho is not online. Is your friend? I don't know his name.
Her name.
Her name. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
Is she
Let,
online?
let me check. Oh, she seems online, but is she available? Let's try.
Yeah, let's try to call her. I mean,
Yeah,
just to
yeah,
have a talk. See if she's interested.
yeah.
By the way, I love the balloons behind you.
Balloons are great. I mean, as I said, normally we are run up to the towers, but this is more of a group thing that we all come together and go fly around the decks.
Okay,
Hey,
that's great.
Seda.
Hi. Hi,
Hello.
all. Hello.
Mattia, nice to meet you.
Seda, nice to meet you.
Matti and I were discussing on how it feels to live in a transurban city. I mean, meaning that smart city is designed around transhuman citizens. And I mean, we both have quite opposite experiences about that. So we believe that they have great potentials, but implementations are sometimes very problematic, and we wanted to involve more people into discussion to see how their lives are going.
Yeah, and well, I was telling you, I was telling us, sorry, that here in Zemgud I had quite some hard time, but also this friend of mine, Yuho, that also lives like you in Euphemia, well, was telling me that they implemented this Internet of Citizens in the city center. He also found it quite problematic, because basically he said that the aim of the technology was to create tighter communities, to bring people together, basically.
Yeah.
But in the end, the municipality mostly used it for touristic purposes. So, just to make money from tourists, and the city center became this sort of, flamboyant, baroque accumulation of content, some sort of, like a theme park on steroids. And so that, visitors and tourists are always overstimulated, and they wander around almost a bit drowsy, flooded with new stimuli all the time, and, with a very, very short attention span. And he was saying that living in a place like this is impossible. I mean, tourists like it, and I have to confess, I was there a few months ago, last summer, in fact. And as a tourist, I did enjoy it. But yeah, I didn't really think when I was there that for someone living in the city, it must be a nightmare, right? And he was saying that for him, it's just impossible to lead a normal life there. And that he's considering selling his house, that is his parents' house, basically, and just move elsewhere because it's becoming just too much.
Yeah, too sad.
Yeah. And I mean, did you have some similar experience too? Was it terrible for you?
Well, not actually, because that's true, but it also depends where you live in the city. For example, the situation in my neighborhood is very different. There is a park that has become the center of our community life after Internet of Citizens was activated. So I think my experience is quite different.
And what's really different about that park that makes it the center of the community?
It's really an unexplainable feeling. Imagine that you are connected to the city and it lives and grows with you. For example, when you are in the park, you immediately connect to plants or trees.
Yeah, sorry. Is it like you get information about the plants and trees, like how old they are, what are their scientific names, how their life cycle works, something like that?
Yeah, you can get the information, but this is beyond knowing its name or the life cycle. They are not just trees anymore. Each of them is an individual with a huge history. It's more like witnessing a long history, but from a different perspective. Each time you connect to a different thing. It can be a plant or building or just a bird passing by. It's impossible to get all this information. I mean, this is possible to get all this information via listening, reading, or touching a tree.
That sounds really interesting, and actually that might bring a lot of opportunities, I don't know, for design, I think.
Yeah, the most interesting part for me is while sitting at a bench to get in contact with the memories of people who sit at this same place. It's an incredible way to connect to your neighbor and your community. And interestingly, your community is not just transhumans, but everything in this area. It's difficult to feel alone there. You tune in and you become part of a place. The first impact is the incredible amount of information that other citizens are sharing everywhere, thoughts, memories, comments, arts, memes, and much more.
So, but you would say that then when your neighborhood became transurban, it somehow or maybe helped at least create a sense of community.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but not only that, it's a resource for the city and the well-being of the society. We use this system also to have continuous dialogue with the municipality. The community submits well-informed project as in a sort of cooperative game to imagine the best neighborhood possible. The city government then receives these proposals and acts accordingly to rapid and incisive actions that gain immediate feedback from the citizens. They called it a loop of urban improvement and said that it makes the city adaptable to the changing needs and expectations of the population.
You know what? I sort of always thought that this technology has, well, a lot of potential. And I mean, like, your park sounds wonderful, like a really nice place to live and to connect with other and
Yeah.
with objects, etc. It sounds really great, but again, on paper, because I mean, the implementation, at least in the city center, that's what I gathered from what Yuho was telling me, it was just so short-sighted. I mean, they just, focus on tourists and forgot about the citizens. And
Yeah,
that is
that's
such a
sad.
pity, because that's how you kill a city center in the end, right? And I'm sure that you could use these technologies exactly like in your park, but you could use them to make the city attractive both to tourists and to, its citizens, its inhabitants.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I really loved how they created this, I don't know, sense of connection to every piece of city there for inhabitants. But that's also very sad to hear the experience of Yuho from the city center, historical center part. I think that's why it might be really worth investigating, right? I mean, we have a great potential in our hands and it can go both ways. And apparently it's not really discovered even if we had the technology. I mean, we're just seeing the results and effects right now, but I think we need to think a bit more through that so we won't ruin the city experience for others while making it great for some others. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think we could work to create some sort of, like a transurbanism framework that like focuses on the different dimensions involved in this project. No, I mean, in these processes of creating cities that become transurban, what are the main dimensions that are involved?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you say dimensions, it sounds really promising because I guess those three cities that we're just talking about somehow focus on this maybe different types of transhuman augmentations, right? For example, in Zembrut, I think they're somehow designing the city around emotional augmentations. I mean, of course, implementation doesn't look very good from here, but yeah, that's just one way to go. And here in Phyllis, for example, now the city became something really different from what we were accustomed to, because they really rethought the city design according to our new physical augmentations and our capabilities of reaching very high places, for example. And I think Euphemia somehow tries to play on the cognitive augmentations and concepts such as Internet of Citizens. And I think maybe that might be a good starting point, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, at the same time, we have to take in consideration the smart city layers that are involved, like how these augmentations impact the social dimensions. Like in Zemrude, where I have read, the situation is pretty dire. And they also impact the management dimension, as it becomes pretty clear if you compare life in my neighborhood and in Yuhos. And also the design dimension, like how new mobility capabilities of citizens change the design vertically and horizontally, as all said.
Yeah. So I was thinking that, I mean, as you both sort of outlined three different dimensions, right? So we have some dimensions that deal with the kind of technology, in fact, the kind of enhancement that transhuman citizens get, right? So we have cognitive, we have, emotional, and, physical, of course.
Yes.
And on the other hand, we have different dimensions that deal basically with the smart city. So, the design layer, the management layer, and we can call it the social layer, right? So we could create sort of a table, like a grid, in which we cross these different dimensions, and we individuate 9 different, let's say, hotspots in which the change in the transurban city is concentrated. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so. I think then maybe we should think them through the type of interactivity that these cities and of course our new capabilities afford. I mean, I also bet that many of these are in some way gamified, at least as far as I understand from the example of your friend Yuho, that it's somehow a theme park now. I think it is most probably a gamified experience for the tourists. But of course, we can still look at it further to see how we can use it for engaging citizens.
Yeah, sure. Like, I guess that, climbing up towers in Phyllis might be pretty playful too.
Yeah,
I'm sure Yuho can be very happy with that because it's quite...
yeah, that would be really good.
That's quite his field. So yeah, definitely. We have to ask him. And at the same time, I think we also need to focus on the citizens, right? Because we have the big technologies, the big smart city layers, the interaction. But it's also important to look at how, in the end, citizens actually navigate these cities. How they feel they belong, like you do in your city, or they feel that they don't, like me in Zemude, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's important to keep the focus also on the individual layer to see how these augmentations, these technologies, these new transurban cities become part of the daily life of millions of people in the end.
Yeah. Great. I guess we have plenty of ideas already, and I'm now taking some notes to create some homeworks for us, so we can proceed from here. And I think this table that you proposed might be a great starting point. And maybe I can start working on analyzing these different intersections and discover these different opportunities that they can bring. But of course, there will be also challenges because of their coming together. So I can maybe start analyzing this. And maybe then you can start working on so how this would change the meanings that we load to the cities and how it changed the social structure.
Yeah, sure.
And maybe Seda can work especially on possible effects on design and management.
Yes, sure.
Great. And I guess I imagine that Yuho would be really interested in how all those developments will make cities playful and how can we use them and work on them further to engage citizens in cities.
Yeah, definitely. I will write him, but it seems pretty much his sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's quite cool. Yeah. I mean, sounds like a cool project.
It does. In fact, it seems already set up, basically.
Maybe we can have another call and discuss it later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. I think we should have a call. And, I will write you an email and we can organize another meeting next week with also your host, possibly.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds good?
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. That was great, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for all the ideas and see you soon next week, hopefully, right?
Yeah. Let's do it. Okay. It was nice to meet you, Seda.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
It was really nice to meet you. Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Bye. And Oz, just a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Can I ask you a thing, man?
Yeah, of course.
How to say, was your invitation legit? I mean, can I really come and visit you?
Yeah, sure.
I really need a break because I have enough of feeling bad because I feel bad and feeling guilty because I feel guilty. I mean, I can't get out of this.
I mean, I know how it feels, and I guess a bit of a change would be great also for you and also for me. I mean, I really want to, show around to my friends and like spend some together on those observation decks. They're so good.
Mm,
I mean, just put a new pair of legs and come to Phyllis. I mean, you won't regret it.
yeah. Look, my relief is already skyrocketing just at the thought of that. Thank you, man.
Great to hear.
I appreciate it, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm waiting, and whenever, just call me and be here in an hour. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Catch you later. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.